Kentucky's defense has been a little bit of a concern as of late, and it looks like they got some of their problems solved, and I mean completely solved, against Brown earlier today.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 88-54 win over the Brown Bears. This one went according to plan for Kentucky, and they did some things on the defensive side of the ball that I was extremely impressed with, and frankly, I think if they continue to do them, their defensive issues will be solved. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms, and if you are watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show, and if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. Let me know what you think about this game in the comments below, your thoughts coming out of it, your thoughts heading into Florida. Of course, we'll get into all of that on today's show. I am very impressed with the way that Kentucky played today, battled through a pretty solid Brown team that I have a lot of respect for, especially after seeing what they did in the first half against Kansas and kind of what some of their individual players were able to do in this one, specifically Leno Jr. and then Lewis, their big man down low as well. They've got some good pieces, and I expect big things from them in the Ivy League. I think this may be their best team in a long time. And Kentucky beats them 88-54 here on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's to anybody that's watching this in 2025. I'm recording it in 2024 still, but Kentucky getting it done on this college football rich day. There's actually the Fiesta Bowl going on as I record this. Obviously some bigger bowls earlier today. The SEC not looking so good in the postseason here, but the Wildcats getting it done to wrap up non-conference play, 11-2. If I had told you that Kentucky was going to finish 11-2, I think you absolutely would have taken that, because that would have meant wins more than likely over some pretty solid competition. Getting wins over Duke and the Gonzaga Bulldogs it was really, really nice to see the Zags and both the Blue Devils put out some really solid effort, but the Wildcats able to come back there in the end at both those contests. That's two huge wins, obviously. However, the losses to Ohio State and Clemson, they show flaws about this team that are frustrating at the very least. But at least it feels like, to an extent, some of Kentucky's issues are fixable. That is what we saw today, specifically on the defensive end of the floor. Kentucky had struggled with it against Ohio State. And I don't just mean struggled with it. I mean they got abused in ball screen defense. They could not defend a screen to save their lives. That, according to Mark Pope, is something that Kentucky worked on relentlessly over the course of these last 10 days, and you could see it pay off, especially early in this game. Kentucky's length and their aggression bothered Brown with Kentucky's ball screen defense. They were fighting through everything. They were making sure that they were there and they were ready for every single thing that Brown was trying to throw at them in terms of cuts, in terms of rescreening stuff, and it was beautiful. It was really, really solid defense, and it led to something that Kentucky has struggled with all season just because of the fact that Brown tried to be I think they were trying to get a little too cute at different times and trying to make things happen that weren't necessarily there. Kentucky's length over aggression, paired with Brown wanting to kind of throw the ball all over the place, it led to a lot of turnovers. And I don't mean just a lot of turnovers. I mean a grand total of 23 turnovers for the Brown Bears. That is their season high, compared to just 5 turnovers for the Wildcats, and that was essentially the story of the game. That paired with another statistic that we'll get to here in a little bit. But defensively, Kentucky played hard, played aggressive, and overcommitted to a Brown team that frankly just did not have the guys to outpass and outperform Kentucky's length and aggression. 23 turnovers led to 33 points off of turnovers for the Kentucky Wildcats. 33 outscored the Bears 33-4 in that category. That was the story of the game. Brown continued to cough the ball up. They took 10 less shots than Kentucky. They took 11 less free throws. They took 7 less threes, and they turned the ball over 23 freaking times. You got turnovers from everybody. You got 4 turnovers from Cooley. You got 4 turnovers from their leading scorer, Lily Keno Jr. as well. You got so many different guys out of sync. Lewis, their big man, who was pretty solid in this game, he had 3 turnovers on top of this. You got so many different guys out of sync in that offense where nobody was really finding any sort of consistency. And again, it's very impressive to see, and it's refreshing to see heading into this Florida game where you're going to go up against a very aggressive Florida team that's got some really solid guards there that can shoot. Elijah Martin, Walter Clayton Jr. Can you do similar things to what you did against Brown? Maybe there's going to be more of an inside presence for the Gators, which of course we'll break down later this week. But overall, it's good to see the fact that Kentucky can adjust. Something that I've continued to say on the show over and over and over again, and I'll reiterate it here just because I think it's a really positive thing to kind of refrain on. Kentucky's got a coach that can coach, all right? Gone are the days where Kentucky is presented with a problem, a team playing zone defensively, your defense needing to switch to a zone and you not realizing that you need to. How to guard an individual three-point shooter, like Jack Golke. There are various issues that Kentucky basketball has had over the last several years where schematically they can solve them. A better coach, would have stepped in and would have adjusted things and would have made the problem go away. And that's not to say the man that was here before was a bad coach. He just, over time, just decided to not really fix a ton, it seemed like, on paper, or at least was aware of the problem and yet didn't execute. You see this here with Kentucky. You see the ball screen issues. You see in-game, down at half against Duke, down at half against Gonzaga. You see them adjusting. You see them making changes on both sides of the ball. You see them switching to this 1-3-1 to shut down Ryan Nembhard. You see them doing different things against Duke where it's like, okay, they're going to try and take away some of our stuff outside. Well, we're going to try and pound the paint, and we're going to be more aggressive inside on defense as well. We're going to do all these different things, and we're going to adjust. And this is something that Mark Pope has been so good at so far this season, is seeing a problem and then addressing it. Yes, the Kentucky Wildcats are not going to be perfect, but at least they're aware of some of their flaws, and they're trying to make them better. They're trying to be better about it. I'm impressed. I am pleased, and I'm impressed. We'll continue to break this one down here. Obviously, I think the story of the game was twofold. I think it was both, hey, you created on defense opportunities for your offense, and it led to 33 points. If Kentucky can do even, let's say, 70% of that, 65% of what they did turnover-wise and production off of that in future games, they will be insanely hard to beat if they do this one other thing, which we'll break down here in just a little bit. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, it definitely happened to me. It actually happened about a month or so ago where I realized I was paying for a service that I actually use for work, and I thought I was just paying for it one time. And as it turns out, I was paying for it underneath 2 separate accounts, and I had absolutely no idea. Didn't realize I was still paying for them, and Rocket Money made it super easy to track them all down. It's almost like having a personal assistant for your finances, and it's all in one place, and on top of being able to keep track of your subscriptions. It's a personal finance app that helps monitor your spending, lower your bills so you can have better savings. It brings everything together. Again, it's all in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users. 5 million users, and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. You can cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. You can go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, continuing along here on the Tuesday, not the Thursday, the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. I really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. Again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. Let me know what you think about this game in the comments below. Were you excited about the way that Kentucky played? Were you somehow concerned coming out of this heading into the Florida game? I mean, look, Kentucky took care of business. They played good defense, and they scored 88 points. I really don't think I'm complaining heading into that Gators game that much. Obviously, the Ohio State game, it stings. Like, it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth, but you did everything you could do today, I think. So, we mentioned the fact that Kentucky will be incredibly hard to beat if they create more turnovers on defenses, which is something that we harped on last week. They'll be insanely hard to beat if they create more turnovers. They will also be insanely hard to beat if they just start shooting better, which is something that they have struggled with as of late. Now, I came into this season with our little Mark It Down segment. We'll play the little sticker here for you guys. I'm sure you can hear it on podcast as well. We came into this week saying, look, hot take, Kentucky against Brown and Florida is going to average 38.5% from three or better. Kentucky, in this game, they were shooting pretty decently in the first half. They actually, funnily enough, were shooting 38.5%. Just saying, in the first half. Things did cool off a little bit in the second half. They went 5 of 15 in the second period. So that meant a total of 10 of 28 from three, 35.7%. That was the average there. So Kentucky going to have to shoot 41.3% from three against Florida this weekend. That is 1,000% doable, by the way. It's definitely in the realm of possibility. Yes, Florida has one of the nation's best three-point defenses. I mean, so does Kentucky, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter, I think, some of these statistics against some better competition, because again, everything's matchup related, and also you don't really know what you're going to get night in and night out in the SEC. Sometimes you'll be hot, sometimes you'll be cold, sometimes you'll win games you should, sometimes you'll lose games you shouldn't. And I think this Florida game is going to be a really interesting test for Kentucky this weekend. But if they can shoot better, just better. That's all we're asking for, is just improve marginally, because this team has so many different shot makers. Make your open looks. Then you're going to be good. You're going to be good. The thing, again, to go back to what I was saying about Mark Pope earlier, he is I think he's such a good adjustment coach. He's such a good in-game adjustment coach. And I think that offensively, we're getting the looks we want for the most part. Kentucky's just not hitting them. And if they did, again, they'd be a lot harder to stop. They just have to make some of these shots. For instance, Jackson Robinson continues to shoot poorly. Again, at some point, he's going to have a really good game. At some point, he's going to break out, and he's going to have a phenomenal performance. Today, just 8 points, 1 of 4 from three, had a couple of open looks. I think one of them that was rushed. I did not dislike the shot selection overall. It's just, again, you're missing. You're just not hitting the shots, man. It's going to happen at some point. Kobe Brea had a couple of shots in this game where it's like, okay, I like that shot. 2 of 6 from three. Colin Chandler was wide freaking open a couple of different times in this game. 0 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 3 from three. In limited time, Chandler has been underwhelming. Today, Travis Perry, 4 points, made his only 3-point shot. He stepped back, created some space for himself, was wide open. He knocked it down. Good for him. Ainsley Almanor had, I think, several different shots from that right corner, and a couple of them I think were just quick pulls, but he can hit them. That's his spot. 1 of 4 from three. You're going to have to shoot better. You're going to have to shoot better. You're getting these open looks. You have to make more. And yes, I know Kentucky made 10 threes. And that's Pope's argument, right? It's like, well, I'm more concerned about volume than I am about efficiency. I'm more concerned about efficiency than I am volume, because you get to a point here in this upper echelon of three-point shooting where if you're taking 27 to 30, 33 threes a game, efficiency becomes more of a factor, right? At least it does in my eyes. We talked about this throughout the course of the offseason I think there was one episode I did where I was talking specifically about Kobe Brea and about how if you had just given him, like, as far as like what he was doing at Dayton, if you had given him a few more shots, then Dayton would have actually flipped several of their games just based on his efficiency, right? In this game, yes, you took 28 threes. You make 13 of them. You get that extra 9 points. I mean, you're golden. And the thing is, Kentucky has the ability to do that. They have the ability to make those shots. They were open. Again, at this point, it comes down to me. How efficient are you in chucking all these shots up? I guess Pope's his argument has to be, well, if we put up enough at an average efficiency rate, we're going to score enough points. Which is a fair assessment. But if you know you can shoot better, I don't know. If you know you can shoot better, I would be more concerned about trying to get those kids to knock those shots down. Andrew Carr apparently has been a story where it's like, okay, Carr, you're going to need to take more threes. And he took 2 today. He made 1 of 2. Not mad at it. I wouldn't be mad if I saw Carr take a couple more threes. Again, for me, it's less about volume and more about efficiency right now. I don't think you can argue against that, especially considering Kentucky's recent results. They've gotten their volume. They've not hit the shots. That's way more of a concern, I think, right now. Otega Owe going 1 of 3, having an open look. You have to make your open shots. You're not going to be able to do it every single game, right? Nobody is perfect. What I am advocating for is for what was statistically one of the best spot-up catch-and-shoot squads in the nation, this conglomerate of transfer portal players. They were objectively some of the best in that area coming out of the portal. What I am advocating for is for them to just be better than what they are so far, which has been slightly underneath average to average. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. 10 threes in this game, 35.7%. It's good, but Kentucky has a higher ceiling. It's evident. You saw it at the beginning of the year. They have a higher ceiling. You have a game like this where you dominate on the defensive end of the floor, and you have to be happy with yourself. Brown shot 41% on the game, 24% from 3. Keno Lilly Jr., 16 points, 7 of 12 shooting, 2 of 6 from 3. He really did not create almost any space for himself in that first half. I mean, he was struggling to find any sort of open outside shot. Now, he was getting some different cuts to the basket, which hurt. Still effective at 7 of 12 at the end of the day. But the volume is what hurt him there because he is such an efficient player. Lewis Jr., they're what the broadcast kept calling their versatile big man, who's like 6'7", 15 points, 6 of 12 shooting, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. But again, they've got some pieces that I'm pretty impressed with. I was not mad at the way Brown fought in this game. Of course, the turnovers definitely did hurt them. They out-rebounded Kentucky 35-29. They were up, I think, at the half, 21-10 in that category, which is just bizarre to think about Kentucky getting out-rebounded like that. And I think less of it had to do with, like, Kentucky not putting in the effort and more of just the fact that the ball just bounced Brown's way. That's happened a couple different times this year. That will just happen sometimes. And it's all right. It's fine. It happens. Shout out to Lamont Butler, who quietly had himself a day, plus 29 and plus box minus. Only 6 points, but he had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. Dawe had 4 steals and 2 assists in this game. No turnovers, 13 points. Pretty balanced scoring effort across the board. Andrew Carr, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, on 3 steals for him on efficient shooting. Amari Williams, efficient shooting night, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Love to see that. No turnovers, 1 assist, 3 blocks, 2 of which I think came in like the first few minutes. A steal there in 19 minutes of play. Brandon Garrison, I think, had some bright moments in this one, 21 minutes, as opposed to Amari Williams, 19. And Williams was not in foul trouble, which is interesting there. 5 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, no turnovers for Garrison. Garrison has continued to prove himself to be a pretty dang solid passer. I know a lot of people are obsessing over like, oh, it's Amari and like how Mark Pope's offense likes to do stuff like da. No, I think that Brandon Garrison has really impressed me as far as his passing skills. In fact, I can go and check this here real quick. Yeah, Brandon Garrison has a higher assist rate and a lower turnover rate than Amari Williams does right now. It's impressive. It's actually, if you take Carissa out of the rotation, which Carissa's out of the rotation right now, Brandon Garrison has the second highest assist rate on this team. And this is a team that's top 50 in the nation in assists over field goals made. Yeah, I am impressed. Brandon Garrison has been good. Trent Noah came off the bench and knocked down a couple of threes. I hope he stays. I hope he stays next year. The kid clearly can shoot. He's got a solid body for the wing. He's not like a pure guard. He's somebody I think that you can play at the 3, and he's a shooter. The kid is a shooter. I'd love to see him with next year's squad. I think he would be pretty valuable. You've got Kobe Brea, 4 of 9 from the floor, 13 points, had a couple of rebounds, a couple of blocks as well, just getting up against some big men that were twice his size, just being really physical down low. Love to see it. Let's see, Jackson Robinson again had 8 points. Travis Perry had 4. Ainsley Almanor had 6. It's a balanced scoring effort for a team that shot 50% from the floor, 55.9% the second half, by the way, so they turned it up there. They shot well from the foul line, 78%. I mean, outside of the rebounds, Kentucky essentially dominated in every aspect of this game. 38 fast break points. I said it in the preview episode. I thought Kentucky could just outspeed Brown a lot in this game. 34 bench points to Brown's 13. 11 second chance points to Brown's 6. 14 steals to Brown's 3. 18 assists to Brown's 11. By the way, Kentucky just 5 turnovers in this game. And I'll pull this back up here real quick. I didn't mean to close this out. Kentucky has gone up to number 24 in the KenPom ratings, went from 26 to 24. Their defensive efficiency rating went from 65th up to 57th. Here after that solid defensive performance, holding Brown to 54 points. The offense is 11th in the nation. They are second in the country in turnover percentage on offense. The number 1 team, by the way, is Auburn. Neither of these teams really give the ball away at all. Kentucky does a really good job preventing offensive rebounds. They hold opponents to low shooting percentages. The 2-point percentage is continuing to climb, which is a little bit of a concern, but it's not climbing dramatically. It's just climbing marginally. A solid performance against Florida this weekend, I think, would be big there for UK. We'll have to see. But Kentucky right now, I mean, analytically, they're in a decent spot. They could be better. They just have to continue to improve this defense in order to be, according to history, a national title contender and a Final Four contender at the very least. And once you get into the Final Four, I mean, you really do have a shot. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.